Daenerys Targaryen. She says she is the mother of dragons. But would you trust her with your kids? Her father was a maniac. She palled around with Dothraki terrorists. She asked the city of Karth for a government bailout. Then she lost 3 baby dragons after placing them in an unlocked wooden box. An unlocked wooden box. This Khaleesi wants to be queen of the 7 kingdoms, but can she be trusted? Daenerys Targaryen. Wrong for dragons. Wrong for the realm. Paid for by the Committee to Protect Dragons.
We don't know anything about him.
He was never really vetted.
Is he really the true-born son of Robert Baratheon?
All over the 7 kingdoms, people are asking the same question. Who is the real King Joffrey? The people of Westeros are hurting. Winter is coming. Crop yields are falling, and the price of fuel is going up.
The cost of peat moss is through the thatched roof.
And this young and inexperienced king takes advice from a whoremongering imp and has launched an illegal war in the north. What is King Joffrey hiding? This is not our kind of family values. King Joffrey. What a bastard.
What a bastard.
Paid for by the young Baratheons for freedom. Robb Stark. He's the biggest celebrity in the North. But his father was a traitor. He arrested his own mother. His bastard brother deserted the Night's Watch. And he couldn't defend his own castle. Worst of all, Robb Stark hasn't stopped the wildlings from invading our lands and taking our jobs. He even has an illegal alien for a nanny. And now he wants to be king in the North? King? Some people say he's really a wolf. Some people say he eats dead people. We can't wait until it's too late. Send a raven to Winterfell now and tell Robb Stark to go back home. Stop eating dead people and defend the damn wall. This ad paid for by Crossbows GPS.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
When you can't find anything to watch on cable, you get bored. When you get bored, you listen to radio cooking shows. When you listen to radio cooking shows, you invite a friend over for dinner. When you invite a friend over for dinner, you use twice as many beans. When you use twice as many beans, you expel deadly farts that kill your friend's dog. When you kill your friend's dog, your friend becomes unstable. When your friend becomes unstable, you're sued for everything you're worth. When you're sued for everything you're worth, you're thrown to the streets. When you're thrown to the streets, you devote your life to world domination. When you devote your life to world domination, you become an evil fascist overlord. When you become an evil fascist overlord, old friends plot their revenge. When old friends plot their revenge, you are shot in the back of the head. And when you're shot in the back of the head, you miss your jazzercise appointment. Don't miss your jazzercise appointment. Upgrade to Indirect TV. Go online or call 1-800-ERECT-TV.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad, bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good, good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans and freedom lovers all across this wonderful globe of ours. It is I, your lovable host, Elrod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. And how do I know? Yes, folks, I even checked again today, as I do every day. It is Friday, May the 8th in the year of our Lord 2015, which means we've come to the end of the week as far as the Rod Eccles Show is concerned. But, of course, there is the weekend that is ahead, and hopefully everybody will have a chance to really thoroughly enjoy their weekend. And because it is Friday and tomorrow's the weekend, today is also what we normally do here, Free for All Friday. And today is the day that, we really talk about just about, keep it clean, of course, just about anything that is on your mind. So the number is 603-835-3224. That's 603-835-3224 if you wish to call the program and discuss just about anything that is on your mind. Coming up on next week, Monday, there will be a couple little tweaks to the program. You'll notice some changes to the listeners, and it'll be good stuff. But right now, I am just sitting here just chatting with you and enjoying my good old Perdomo cigar. It's a Lot 23 cigar from Nicaragua. The wrapper and filler is Nicaraguan. And it's Friday, so you get to indulge a little bit, enjoy your weekend. I know there's going to be fewer people that are going to be enjoying their weekends, though, coming up soon, and we'll get into that. This $15 an hour minimum wage is already starting to have an effect on people. I know Dr. Ben Carson is out there saying that he thinks the minimum wage should be a little bit higher. I don't know where he's getting that from, but we'll also talk a little bit about the Clintons, of course, because she's still running. She isn't out of the running for the Democratic nomination. Lindsey Graham inserts foot back in mouth again to reassert his rhinoism. And we'll get into Lindsey, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. But first, I want to talk about last night after the show. I watched an episode of Netflix's version of Daredevil. I really like that show. I'm almost at the season finale, and it was rather interesting. I mean, it's good enough for me to keep watching. I like the superhero stuff, but you have to enthrall me. I haven't seen the new Avengers movie. Actually, I think I have yet to see. I have yet to see the latest Thor and Captain America movie. Winter Soldier or whatever it was. I don't know why I haven't seen those, but I haven't. So I guess I'm a little bit behind. But as far as that is concerned, I will not see the Spider-Man movie because I just think that, I could put up with Tobey Maguire as being Spider-Man, but the new I can't deal with the new casting of Spider-Man. It just not buying it. Just as I will not see the upcoming Superman v Batman movie. Because I just can't buy Ben Affleck as being Bruce Wayne Batman. So it's kind of like George Clooney being Batman. Just not buying it. Sorry. That's just, a lot of people like them. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But I digress on that kind of stuff. I know that a lot of people like the superhero genre of films. I do too, but I'm not exactly a purist, but I'm close to it. And I don't like... I haven't watched the last two X-Men movies because they have deviated so much from what I grew up as being the X-Men that I couldn't stand it. I wasn't watching the X-Men. So I haven't seen the last two. And I guess Hugh Jackman, after 17 years of playing Wolverine, is hanging up his claws. He's not going to be playing Wolverine anymore. I'm sure they'll get some other young hottie to play Wolverine, much like they did for getting Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Woman go gaga over that, and he's what, wasn't he People some magazine Sexiest Man Alive or Sexiest Man of the Year or something like that. He's an Aussie, right? He's got a brother too. I guess his brother's doesn't look like him. So I don't know if they're half brothers or full brothers, but they're not. I don't think they share the same last name. I guess I don't know, but I don't really follow them all that much. But I digress again because it's Friday, and we can digress. But last night after the show. After the program, I was really, I got to tell you, I didn't think I put that much of me into my show last night, but I was exhausted after the show. And I lumbered through all the post-production stuff because, here, we got post-production stuff that you have to do for the program. And it has to be sent off to all our syndicated stations, which keep growing by the week, it seems now, which is a good thing. So I have to package the show and do post-production to send it off. And I lumbered through that. But by the time I was done, I was really I just didn't really want to think about anything anymore. I just wanted to have my brain sort of shut down because my brain does not shut down very often. Even as tired as I get sometimes, it's constantly, thinking. And, the wheels are constantly turning. So last night I thought, I'll just watch... I'll watch some Daredevil. Now the problem with Daredevil is that it's not mindless superhero programming. It really isn't. I mean, you really have to pay attention and think because they introduce a few plot twists and turns here and there. So it's not mindless. So I thought after one episode, because I've got 2 more episodes to go, and then I'm done with the season. So I didn't go on to another episode. See, what I always do with shows when I binge watch them, I'll binge watch up until the season finale show. And then I'll save that last show for another day. Just so I'm not worn out from the program. So it gives me something to look forward to. I know it's kind of stupid, but that's, just me. So I didn't watch episode 12 in order to get it out of the way so I could watch episode 13 over the weekend. Because it was, I really just wanted to veg out. So I decided that, I haven't seen something. So I switched from Netflix to HBO. Yes, I have HBO Now. And I was watching the documentary. It was rather long, too. I didn't expect it to be quite as long as it was. But I watched a documentary over there on Netflix about the Church of Scientology. And again, I'm thinking, well, Rod, you're watching something again that isn't for mindless viewing. You're going to have to pay attention to this kind of stuff. And I did. And as I'm watching this, I'm realizing a comparison that Scientology is a cult. And I'm not even going to get into the Tom Cruise thing. Tom Cruise, I'm sorry, he looks like he's lost it, like he's crazy. That laugh and smile is a crazy man in my book. I don't know if he's really, truly, mentally unstable, but he just looks and sounds crazy to me. And I don't know if it's something that Scientology, it's at the point where it's almost seems fake. Like everything that Tom Cruise does is highly forced. I'm not buying his ultra happiness. I don't see it. It seems too rehearsed, too forced, too fake, and too insane. I'm just not buying it. I mean, nobody genuinely, for no particular reason, just because they're happy, smiles that big and laughs that way. I mean, I've paid attention to Tom Cruise since the Risky Business days. He was not like that back then. So I'm comparing, I know people change a little bit as they age, but wow, he's not the same person. I mean, this is what people were talking about when he was jumping up and down on Oprah Winfrey's couch talking about how he was in love, and that it did not seem natural. And a lot of people picked up on that. That's not real. He's hiding something. Something's fake. What's going on here? And it really talked about I know there's two sides to every story, but we really saw the dark side of the Church of Scientology. Now, there were certain things that I knew about L. Ron Hubbard and how he came up with and invented Scientology. I did not know the extent of the ruse that this guy came up with for Scientology. I did not fully understand just how devious and how much of a loon this guy appeared to be. L. Ron Hubbard, when you looking at the interviews that he much like Tom Cruise, he seemed a little off. He seemed a little crazy. And some of the pictures that they showed of this guy, I'm thinking, wow, that's either that's one of two things. Either that's evil in his eyes, or that's the sign of insanity right there. That's what I got. That's what I took away from the program. And it was amazing how the church amassed its wealth, and they did one thing that was kind of gutsy and good. Is that back in the 90s and 80s and 90s, the church, Miskovich, or whatever his name is, the one who took over after L. Ron Hubbard, he basically took on the IRS head on. And they won. Because before then, the IRS was saying that you don't qualify for, tax-free status because you're not a real religion in a church. And this guy, who very determined, very, look, let me tell you something. If the mafia had this guy leading the crime syndicate, they'd still be in business right now and on top of their game. Because this guy is something else. You don't do to the IRS what the IRS tends to want to overwhelm you with government might. Well, he flipped it on the IRS. When the IRS was not giving the Church of Scientology their tax-free status, religious status, he decided that he was going to sue the IRS in multiple states. He literally had all of these people individually file lawsuit against the IRS while the church itself also filed lawsuit. So basically, at the same time, so he overwhelmed the IRS. And the IRS was shocked. You know, whoa, who can do that? Nobody does that to the IRS. But he eventually won. Now, that isn't a person who's determined because he has a certain religious belief. That's a man who's determined because there's a lot of money at stake. A lot. You know, if they lost their case and the IRS said that, you know, the church was going to be bankrupt, they owed like $1 billion in back taxes and penalties. And they only had like a $250 million worth of assets at the time. And then all of a sudden, they got this tax-free status. All that's lifted. They start expanding. They start buying properties. And now the church has a value of well over $3 billion. And they have a church membership of less than 50,000. And you're listening to all these people tell the different stories. There are certain things that are backed up by other events that have been recorded, and it's amazing. I'm surprised they haven't killed any. I'm really surprised they haven't really killed anybody, but I see why they don't have to. Now, I did not because I don't. You know, all I did was read Dianetics. I didn't realize I didn't even read the whole thing because I thought it was rubbish. But I didn't realize the extent that they go through to achieve this clear process or designation in this thing that they call an e-meter. And it's really amazing how people fall into this trap. And the problem is that these people that are administering this test, if you will, or this therapy, if you will, like a psychiatrist or psychologist, they're taking extremely copious notes. And they get into some details. And you would think, you know, you're talking to somebody like your priest or your pastor or something, you know, the confessional. That information that's passed between the two of you is supposed to be sacrosanct and they tell nobody. Well, evidently the church, in order to keep people in line, will use that against them sometimes, against the members, to keep them members. And I began, now you're probably thinking, what the hell does Scientology have to do with, you know, pop culture and politics, Rod? Well, as I'm sitting there watching this program all the way through, I begin to see correlations, similarities between the Church of Scientology and democratic liberalism. There is a tremendous amount of similarity. See, it doesn't matter what the truth is. These people in Scientology, much like liberals, will try to bully, will try to manipulate, will try to hide the truth, will even go so far as to do things that are rather shady, possibly even illegal, in order to achieve their end. And yes, the Church of Scientology, according to this documentary, did do certain things that pushed the envelope and pushed the limit of legality. I mean, there are some things that these people were saying that I'm thinking, well, that's not legal. And we get the same thing with the Democrat Party and liberalism. They do things that you can look at and say, whoa, that's not legal. But they're supposed to be out there telling you, well, they are telling you, but they're supposed to be out there and claiming that they are for the little guy. When they continually berate the little guy, they bully the little guy. At the same time, they try to tell the little guy that without the liberals, they're nothing. Kind of like Scientology, you know, if you don't keep progressing and keep doing these sessions, you know, past the state of clear, and you keep doing, if you don't keep doing these, you're not going to achieve the highest level. And the liberals kind of tell you the same thing. If you do not keep this program, then you're not going to make it without us. You're not going to get to that next level. If you do not keep, things like affirmative action, well, blacks aren't going to make it. They can't make it without us. And people get brainwashed into believing this kind of nonsense. It is nothing more, the liberalism is nothing more than a cult. Now, surely, a lot of people say, well, liberalism is a mental disorder. Well, cultism is a mental disorder. And frankly, after looking at some of these people on this program about the Search of Scientology, again, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, so I can't make a psychological affirmative determination, but they look crazy to me. And being crazy is a mental disorder. There is a huge correlation, folks. I mean, it was kind of frightening at the same time as I began to put the two together, as I began to compare in my own mind. This is why I wasn't able to, just sort of veg out. But this sort of, how can I put this? This sort of, they were out there basically just trying to keep people in the program. They were just trying to keep, in any means possible, keep people in the church by any means necessary. The Democrats are out there trying to keep liberalism alive and trying to keep people on the liberal side by any means possible. They will try to stay in power by any means possible. That means by cheating in elections. And look, this whole notion that, there's no electoral fraud. Yeah, that's why people have, over the past couple of elections, people have gone to jail, mostly on the Democrat side. Many of them from that organization that we once called Acorn. People have actually gone to court, been fined, and have been sent to jail. You don't hear that from the left lamestream media. But they have. Look, this is a cult, folks. I realize that is what liberalism is. It's another type of religious cult. And one of the things that you have to do in order to defeat your enemy, Sun Tzu says it, you have to know your enemy. And when you know what your enemy is all about, you know who your enemy is, you know how they think, that's how you can defeat them. And we, as being conservatives on the right side of the political aisle, if we want to preserve our Constitution and preserve our country, we have to fully understand what the left is all about. How they think, how they operate. They're nothing more than a cult. They do nothing more than try to brainwash people into believing what they say. And there's many types of brainwashing technology. There's plain manipulation. There's repeating the same lie over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And of course, there's beratement. If you don't agree with them, then you're a racist, or you're a sexist, or you're a homophobe, and they keep saying it until you bend, because you don't want to be called that. You don't want to be considered that. You don't want to be looked at that way. So you sort of cower. You cover your head and say, "I'm not a racist. I'm not a homophobe. I'm not a bigot. I'm not this. I'm not that." And you start to capitulate to what they're saying. You can't do that. You got to understand this is their tactic. This is nothing more than cultish behavior. And as with any cult, there's only so many people who get to enjoy the full fruits and benefits of being in the cult, and those are the people at the top. Just like at Church of Scientology, only the people at the top are enjoying all the lavish lifestyle. Tom Cruise, yeah, he's a big star, and they treated him well, but there are lots of other people that didn't get the same kind of treatment. So you really have to pay attention to what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're saying it, and you have to stand up for your own beliefs and not be belittled by what they say. Because, frankly, folks, they don't have the ability to really tell you that you can't make it without them. So you have to really go in and change their minds.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
Show.
And you are back here with me on this Free-for-All Friday, 603-835-3224. If you have something that you would like to discuss, just give me a call here on the Rod Eccles Show. And I am, of course, your lovable host, Elrod, sitting in the Freedom Throne behind the Freedom Mic. Look, folks, when it comes to cultish things, when it comes to religion, now you have to understand that to a degree, cults are religious. They are religion, and you have to understand that how they operate. They don't operate based on a larger being or a larger sense of spirituality. Because not every major religion has a centralized or singular God. But there is a singular purpose, singular spirituality. And in a cult, there isn't this centralized God or spirit or spirituality. It revolves around the leader of the cult, not, say, God. Which is why, a lot of people thought that Christianity was basically a cult because it was revolved around Jesus. But they had a problem with defining it as a cult because Jesus referred back to the God of Abraham and Isaac. And therefore, he was saying that it isn't me, but the Father. But nobody comes to the Father but through me. So there wasn't this total centric selfishness on Christ, which would, if it was, hey, I'm God. You got David Koresh and some of these other cult leaders. Oh, well, I'm God on earth. Christ never said he was God. He said he was the Son of God. Well, there's a difference. So what you have is these cultish figures or leaders where their followers look at them as God. They look at them, that leader, as being the end-all, be-all. And L. Ron Hubbard created this system in Scientology that had people looking to him for everything. And now this new leader looking to him for everything. And not only do they look to him, but he, in turn, encourages people to worship L. Ron Hubbard, now that, he passed in 86 or something like that. So, and I'm watching this, and there's a speech in there that he gives, and he's talking about that L. Ron Hubbard is now taking the ultimate test or whatever outside of his body. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're saying the man died. He's not coming back. He's not going to be able to tell you anything about it. But he was making it sound like, L. Ron Hubbard, we may say he died, but he's just passing on into a new existence, new consciousness. He's left his earthly body and taken his form in the spirit realm, in his spiritual body, on his new journey. Okay, but this is what the people believe, and every chance he gets, he's turning and he's saluting the picture of L. Ron Hubbard. He salutes, a military salute. Now, as far as I know, this guy's never been in the military. And then Tom Cruise gets on stage, makes this rather impassioned speech. You know how Tom Cruise gets so intense. He gets intense when he's talking about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology and David Misogivany, whatever his name is, however you pronounce his name. I mean, he's intense. And then he gets this intense handshake and this intense hug. And then he gives L. Ron Hubbard's picture this intense salute. I'm going, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? There doesn't seem to be any joy in this. Seems like it's well rehearsed. It seems like Tom Cruise thinks he's back in one of his movies, whatever. Mission Impossible, things like that. But this is what I was looking at while watching this. And this is, this is their footage. It's not like it's, footage that's been smuggled out. This is, Church of Scientology's footage. So but what we have in the Democrat side is the same thing. You have to worship at the altar of government because they believe government is the answer to everything. And it is definitely the answer to everything when they're in charge of that government. So it's not that just liberals want big government. They want big government that they're in charge of. And that you have to bow down to the altar of big government run by and ruled by liberals. And you need to salute the liberal. That's what they want you to do, to stand up there and be just as intense as Tom Cruise and give that intense salute and say, yes, man, you're the one. You're going to help me through my life. Cradle to grave. That's what we want. Government help. Salute. But that doesn't work. We can look at Black America and see that African Americans in this country, Black America in cities across the country, and we can see that they have that type of intense support for liberal Democrats, but they live a life in shambles. And yet they continually spout the same dogma that is spit out by the liberal left. Liberal left tells them, it's the Republicans' fault. Yeah, it's the Republicans' fault, they repeat. The Republicans are to blame for this, and the Republicans are to blame for all the police brutality. But the point is, and when you go back and you start looking at things, well, first of all, these cities have been run by Democrats for decades. So the Republicans can't be at fault if it's a city run by Democrats. And then you go back and you look at speaking of Hillary Clinton, her husband's the one that wanted 100,000 more police on the streets of America, and he tried to pay for them with federal dollars. So if we have too many police in your city, it isn't because your mayor or somebody hired them all. It's because her husband, Bill Clinton, set aside federal funds so they could hire more police, so they could put more, bullies on the road if you think that the police are bullies. So hello, black people, if you don't like cops, well, who are the ones who put more cops on the street? The Democrats. But you're blaming the Republicans. This is a cult mentality, so that when the cult leader comes to you and says, yes, we have this problem, we've been in charge for 50 years, but you know what? It's really the Republicans' fault. And you say, yes, it's really the Republicans' fault. Remember, Indiana Jones, and the kid is like, Kalima. Oh no, that's the Mummy. Even in Indiana Jones, they have this cult type of stuff. Kalima, Kalima, Kal. No matter what you say, you can always get people to believe something other than the truth. And because if they fall at the altar of this cultish crap, they're going to believe you, even though when they live the life and they understand, or they should understand, that they're being lied to day in and day out by the hour, they will buy the lie for whatever reason. And then they'll regurgitate it. This is what we're getting from the Democrats. And the right side, we make this mistake time and time and time again, where we try to say, well, no, this is our policy. This is our policy. This is what we believe. We got to knock it off. You have to fight cultism with cultish tactics. If a cult comes and says, liberal cultist comes in, I'm going to start calling them liberal cultists. And they come and say, well, this is your fault. You can say, we haven't even been involved. Don't offer policy. Say, we haven't been involved. Baltimore's been run by your cult for 50 years. We haven't been involved. It can't be our fault. And then if you start saying that in that way, you push it back, because now the people in this cult, their eyes will start to slowly open and say, wait, well, you told me it's their fault, but they said they haven't even been around. So how is it their fault they're not here? Now, of course, the liberals are going to say that's why it's their fault, because they weren't here. But then it's too late, because then people will start to think, well, wait a minute. If they were here, you're going to say it's their fault. But they haven't been here, so you've been able to do everything that you've ever wanted to do. And I'm still living like this. That's when people start to wake up. It's happening in Detroit and Chicago right now. People are looking around and saying, Detroit, this city's in shambles. And Obama hasn't helped. And the Democrats have been running it for the past 50 or 60 years. How is it the Republicans' fault again? They're starting to wake up. And I will go back to this a study or poll that was taken where 59% of African Americans say that government is the problem. Now, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have had anywhere near that. But this shows that people are beginning to wake up, and you have to, like Indiana Jones, have to sort of take that torch and stick it in their gut and burn them to wake them and to snap them out of it. Don't actually take a torch and start trying to burn people. I'm speaking figuratively here, folks. But you got to wake them up before you can make them see. And the only way you can begin to wake them up is take yourself out of the equation. See, we want to say, us on the right, rightfully so, we want to stand in there and defend our position and then say why we're right and this is right and why it works. And all we have to learn how to start saying and doing is, you know what, in selective cases, just saying, we weren't there. Can't be our fault. We weren't there. And then see what you get back. They can't say anything to that. Because the only thing left is, well, it's your fault you weren't there. But you just said it was my fault because you thought we were there. But we weren't there. So it can't be my fault. The right was not there. Republican conservatives were not there. So it cannot be the conservative Republicans' fault that you're going through this. Because you said it is our fault because we were here. But we weren't there. We weren't in charge. We weren't able to affect any policy. We were not there. So it cannot be our fault. And if it cannot be our fault, then it has to be whose fault? Either yours or your cult leader's fault. Now, naturally, when you put it in those terms, the person on the street is not going to say it's their fault because we're all conditioned to blame somebody else now. They're going to say, wait a minute, it ain't my fault I'm down here in Butcher Holler. It ain't my fault I'm down here in the ghetto or in government housing. They don't bring me opportunity. And they're going to start pointing to the liberals. And they're already doing it in some cities. The next thing you got to do is you got to start attacking the holy men of the cult. You got to bring them down. And I know we've been trying to do that with the likes of Al Sharpton. Hey, by the way, have you noticed Jesse Jackson is noticeably absent from a lot of this stuff lately? He's nowhere near as prominent as he used to be. Because some of the things that started to hit on Jesse Jackson were taking hold. He was becoming less effective. So now Al Sharpton had to change himself in order to stay in the game. So he became the incredible shrinking Al. Now he's big head, little body Al. But you got to understand, in order to start affecting change and weaning African Americans, you've got to go after these people that call themselves the leaders of the black community. Really? Really? Al? Hey, Mr. Sharpton, Reverend Sharpton, why are you talking about the rich? What are you worth? How much money do you make every year? You know, you have to start getting them to talk about, look, you're flying around the country. You know, these people right here, they can't do that. You get to, obviously, you know, but until I guess maybe you had a medical scare, which is why you lost so much weight, but you weren't missing any meals. You have to attack the cult the way a cult wants to attack you. It's called fighting fire with fire. It's a very effective tool. You cannot allow yourself to be put on the defensive. And this is where conservatives make the mistake. We allow ourselves to be put on the defensive so we can defend ourselves. And that's what we try to do. We do not try to fight back. We do not try to reverse it. Look, there's this a very successful type of sales system out there called the Sandler sales system. And one of the things that they always say to new salespeople, one of the things the new salespeople have to learn is that sales should not be a high pressure type of game or a job. It should not. You should not have the pressure. You should not be trying to sell somebody. You should just let the person that you're talking to sell themselves. Put the pressure on them. Take it off of you. You don't get paid enough, and even though some salespeople get paid a lot, you don't get paid enough, so the system says, to take on the pressure. Why would you do that? So we have to look at the same thing. If the left wants to start throwing daggers and darts and putting the pressure on us, we just say, you know what? I'm not taking the pressure. It's not me. We weren't there. Or you're doing this. You're complaining that Republicans do this, but you're doing this too. Can you explain that? Put the pressure, just reverse it. Let it bounce off you back onto them. That's how it works. That's using fire to fight fire. Understand that liberalism is nothing more than a cult. That's all it is. And frankly, in order to get to the point where it's no longer a cult, well, it's always going to be a cult. I don't know what I was thinking right there, but forgive me for that faux pas. But understand, they're always going to have this sort of cultish aspect to them. And no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're going to try to blame you for something. So the whole point is, because that's all they can do. They do not have real solutions. Understand, the solutions that they have been trying for the past 100 years have all failed. And instead of taking responsibility for their failures, they want to blame somebody else. So what you have to do is when you're talking to a liberal is just reverse it. Have that pressure bounce off of you and go right to them. And watch them squirm. You know, one of the, I hate to say this. No, I don't. I really don't. One of the greatest joys in my life is watching a liberal squirm. The reason why I listen to this guy talk a lot. But the reason why I like Juan Williams is because Hannity and some of his guests sometimes, they make him squirm. But yet he still comes back for more because he thinks he's making progress and showing that it's the conservative side's fault. But he doesn't realize that he's losing. 99% of the time, Juan Williams loses. And he sits there and he squirms. And he can't come out with a full, honest, straight, head-on answer. He's got to obfuscate and go around in circles, and it's just wonderful to watch him squirm. Because that's what they all do. When you reverse it on them, you back them into a corner, you'll watch a liberal squirm. And that, obviously that's when they start calling you all kinds of names and saying that you're an idiot. Look, I had it the other day, and somebody, we were discussing with somebody in these stupid chemtrails. And, he was telling me I need to watch his video. I said, you know what? I've already seen the video. And I've seen this video and this video. And I've read this report and this report on the idea. But I've also read this, and this, and I've seen this, and this that refutes all of that. I've even seen interviews with pilots. I've even seen them from your side saying this plane is a chemtrail plane, and they sneak onto the tarmac after it lands, and they try to film to see where the spray is coming out, and there's nothing. Nothing. So I said, you know what? There's so much evidence that debunks that, but you're too close-minded to view it. Do you just want to believe that they're chemtrails, or do you want to know the truth? And I watched him squirm. Because when you get to the truth and when you want to know the truth and that's what you're about, you want to espouse the truth. And they don't. They just want to express and forward their own personal agenda, and you hit them on it and you reverse the pressure. They squirm like hell because they don't have an answer. They don't. So that's what we got to do, folks. You got to get them to squirm. Because if you get the cult leaders to start squirming, well, the rank and file, those cult members will start to see it and they'll begin to wake up. And they'll say, false prophet, boo, false prophet. Telling you that's how it's going to work. We conservatives have got to stop taking the pressure. If you take the pressure, you cannot win the argument. It's very difficult. If you reflect that pressure back on those who are your accusers, you're not going to have a problem with it. Not at all. You are not going to have any kind of problem whatsoever. In fact, you're going to, as you get better at reversing the pressure, you're going to find yourself thoroughly enjoying it. You're going to enjoy it so much that you're going to want to keep doing it. And as you keep doing it, you're going to notice that some people are going to start to flip. Some of the people within your sphere of influence are going to start to flip. They're going to flip from being a liberal to being a conservative. It's going to happen. I've already seen it happen. So you don't need to take the pressure. We, on the conservatives, we don't need to take the pressure. It's the liberals that need to take it because they're the ones that created it. They try to create all kinds of scenarios. And we've also got to stop this idea that if a liberal comes up with an idea, then we've got to come up with our own counter to that idea. No, we don't. It's like Obamacare. Well, the left is trying to do something about healthcare. What are your ideas? Why do I got to have an idea? I say leave it alone. Government doesn't belong in it. That's my idea. Get out of the way. No. You got to come up with a healthcare plan. No, I don't. Here's my plan. Get government out of healthcare because they've screwed it up. There's no way for you to fix it. No plan by government officials is going to fix it. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Why do you want to dictate how people get their health care? Why do you not want people to make their own decisions on health care? You start asking those kind of questions and they'll go, well, no, we want people to have, control over that. Really? You want people to have control over their health care? We'll explain this law that takes that out of their hands. Stop trying to follow them and come up with an idea that's better. If there is no need for an idea, say it. Put it back on them. And tell them, we don't need an idea. We just need, the only idea that we have is that you get out of the way. Plain and simple. The free market, let me decide for myself. I don't need you to decide for me. You do not have to be an outlier. Do not be an outlier of this cult. Do not fall for the cultish maneuvers and tricks. They've been tricking us for decades to follow their lead. And while we've been following their lead, trying to defend ourselves, they've been making gains. That's how they've gotten ahead. We've got to flip it on them, folks. Make them defend whatever they say. Because I tell you something, when you start doing that and they start squirming, that means that they can't defend what they say. And they know they're not going to get away with blaming you. That's when people are going to wake up and they're going to see the truth. I guarantee it.
Daenerys Targaryen. She says she is the mother of dragons. But would you trust her with your kids? Her father was a maniac. She palled around with Dothraki terrorists. She asked the city of Karth for a government bailout. Then she lost 3 baby dragons after placing them in an unlocked wooden box. An unlocked wooden box. This Khaleesi wants to be queen of the 7 kingdoms, but can she be trusted? Daenerys Targaryen. Wrong for dragons. Wrong for the realm. Paid for by the Committee to Protect Dragons.
We don't know anything about him.
He was never really vetted. Is he really the true-born son of Robert Baratheon?
All over the 7 kingdoms, people are asking the same question. Who is the real King Joffrey? The people of Westeros are hurting. Winter is coming. Crop yields are falling, and the price of fuel is going up.
The cost of peat moss is through the thatched roof.
And this young and inexperienced king takes advice from a whoremongering imp and has launched an illegal war in the north. What is King Joffrey hiding? This is not our kind of family values. King Joffrey. What a bastard.
What a bastard.
Paid for by the Young Baratheons for Freedom. Robb Stark. He's the biggest celebrity in the North. But his father was a traitor. He arrested his own mother. His bastard brother deserted the Night's Watch. And he couldn't defend his own castle. Worst of all, Robb Stark hasn't stopped the wildlings from invading our lands and taking our jobs. He even has an illegal alien for a nanny. And now he wants to be king in the North? King? Some people say he's really a wolf. Some people say he eats dead people. We can't wait until it's too late. Send a raven to Winterfell now and tell Robb Stark to go back home. Stop eating dead people and defend the damn wall. This ad paid for by Crossbows GPS.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
When you can't find anything to watch on cable, you get bored. When you get bored, you listen to radio cooking shows. When you listen to radio cooking shows, you invite a friend over for dinner. When you invite a friend over for dinner, you use twice as many beans. When you use twice as many beans, you expel deadly farts that kill your friend's dog. When you kill your friend's dog, your friend becomes unstable. When your friend becomes unstable, you're sued for everything you're worth. When you're sued for everything you're worth, you're thrown to the streets. When you're thrown to the streets, you devote your life to world domination. When you devote your life to world domination, you become an evil fascist overlord. When you become an evil fascist overlord, old friends plot their revenge. When old friends plot their revenge, you are shot in the back of the head. And when you're shot in the back of the head, you miss your jazzercise appointment. Don't miss your jazzercise appointment. Upgrade to Indirect TV. Go online or call 1-800-DIRECT-TV.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad, bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good, good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
You know, you really just have to learn how to not take the pressure on anymore, not be put on the defensive. You know, look, one of the things you have to understand is that the left has been on the offense for 100 years now, and they've really been laying it into us for the last 50 or 60 years now. So you have to go on we have to stop being on the defense. I'm not going to be on the defense anymore. Not anymore. I don't need to defend my position because we're not the ones that have created this mess. Conservatives are not the one that created this mess. This was created by liberals and rhinos. They're the ones that need to defend their position. So why do we let them continue to be on the offense and having us defend our position when we're not the ones who created the mess? So it's now time for us to go on the offensive. And I hope that somebody gets to these candidates for president on the GOP side and tells them the same thing. Hey, take this podcast to them. Let them hear it. I don't care. They need to hear what I just said. They need to understand it. They need to be on the offense. They need to be fighting fire with fire. They need to understand that they should not have the pressure. They should reflect it back on those who have created the mess, and that is the Democrats. And the Democrats are the ones who are in charge of the liberal cult. So they're the ones that need to do it. Good evening, my fellow Americans and freedom lovers all over the planet. It is I, your lovable host, Elrod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. And yes, as I said earlier tonight, I checked today, and it's still live free or die. It is Friday, May the 8th in the year of our Lord 2015. We're really into the May days right now. And here in New England, it's in my neck of the woods of New England, it's been oh, by the way, because this is Free for All Friday, feel free to give me a call at 603-835-3224. Again, that's a toll-free number, 603-835-3224. You know, I found out that I have listenership from all over the place. And when I say from all over the place, there is a good chunk of listeners. Now, it doesn't tell me if they're Americans in these places or not, but the numbers that come in that I have begun to see and started getting back shows that I've got a rather large listenership in the countries of England, Great Britain, and Germany, and even Australia. I find that interesting. I don't know why Germans would be listening to my program, unless they're Americans in Germany, which then that makes perfect sense. But if it's Germans that understand English listening, maybe there's something over there that they want to try to change in Germany. Well, the same thing with England. Well, England's got their own issues. I don't know much about English politics, British politics, and I'm not going to. I know that Cameron has won re-election, and evidently that was his party won 57 seats that they wasn't predicted that they'd win. So it's kind of a landslide over there for him. But again, that's about as far as I can go with that. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know it, and I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know anything about British politics, so I cannot comment other than the fact that the report that I saw today was that he was not expected. It was supposed to be a really close, tough race, and that his party was expected to lose seats, and instead they won 57 seats that they weren't expected to win. So I don't know if this was kind of like the Dewey wins the White House type of thing over here, or I don't. I'm sure they will straighten it out and get to the bottom of it if they really need to. But congratulations to Prime Minister Cameron and his folks over there in Great Britain. Listen, folks, this $15 an hour minimum wage that the left is trying to foist on this whole nation. Now, see, this is where we have to start taking it and start turning it on them, forcing them to defend their position, because in Seattle, it's taking hold. And this is a truthinmedia.com story. And I must admit, I've never had a story from Truth in Media come across my newsfeed. This is the first time. And I'm looking at it. I'm going through looking at the Truth in Media site at truthinmedia.com. And I got to tell you, I like it. So it's now on my favorited list. For those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Realinda, that was not a Max Headroom error. I did that on purpose. And I know some people are scratching their head. Max who? You're going to have to go back to the 80s to know who Max Headroom is. I know some people are. It might be dating me, but Max Headroom was. He was a non-computer generated character from the 80s, and in order for you to understand that, you would have to go back. And he's probably on YouTube. And in fact, maybe I'll try to throw some stuff up on rodeccles.net about Max Headroom if I can find some, and people understand what I'm talking about. Max Headroom he was the bomb back in the day, and the technology that Max Headroom was supposed to be that was far in the future. We have voiceover technology and animation technology that pretty much supersedes him. Kind of like Star Trek. Star Trek was like 500 years into the future from now, and we have a lot of the stuff today that they have 400 years from now. So it's kind of hard for all these and Star Trek this is the reason why they had to reboot the original Star Trek, because in the TV series they were still using analog gauges, and they had to be very careful with the next generation as to they couldn't be too far advanced, but they had to be far enough advanced that they were beyond what we were in the 80s when it was on first run. And it's kind of interesting to see that we've got look, I've got one of them in my hand. They had Picard in the 80s and early 90s when Star Trek Next Generation was on. He had basically what we would call a tablet. And we can read books on it just like he was on a tablet. But we're not 400 years in the future. We started getting these tablets not even 20 years after Star Trek Next Generation went off the air. Not even a generation out of Star Trek. And we had these things. So, they had trouble with that. And when they wanted to start making more Star Trek movies because of the popularity of the Next Generation TV show and movies and the other Star Trek series and the Star Trek Enterprise, well, they realized that they were caught between a rock and a hard place, that they couldn't go back with the original Star Trek kind of stuff because we already surpassed that in technology a lot. So they had to reboot the whole series. And I understand that's why they had to change the whole thing and how Vulcan got blown up and that kind of thing. I didn't like it, but I understand it. But it's hard to make a futuristic type of movie today. Because one, you have to do it in a believable manner, but you can't be so outlandish as it not to be believable. Because of what we do and what we have for technology today and what's on the technological horizon within the current lifespan of most people. It's amazing. With that said, we have to understand that there's a lot of technology out there. And some of that technology is getting really, really inexpensive, cheap, if you will, while getting better. And some of the newer stuff is really, really pricey. But eventually will come down in price. That's the way it always is. That's the way it always works. But when you bring it like the fast food restaurants, I mean, today they don't, McDonald's and Burger King, they do not make their hamburgers the same way that they made them back in the 80s. Back in the 80s and 90s, they still had a flame. Burger King had a flame broiler that you had to flip the burgers and everything, and in order to cook them. And in McDonald's, they still had the grill. You press the burger in and you flip and all that kind of stuff. They don't do that today. It's all automated. You stick the burger in one side and it comes out, frozen on one side. It comes out cooked on the other. You're not going to do any flipping. It's all ready for you. So that type of thing changes, but those grills and those friolators are more expensive than the original grill and the original broiler that those companies used. But it saves them in labor cost. Because now instead of having 2 or 3 people on the grill, you can have one person. During your rush hour, one person can operate that. I worked at McDonald's, so I know how to operate. I mean, the grill was large enough at the McDonald's that I worked at where you could have 2 people on the grill at the same time. And not only did you have 2 people on the grill, but you also then had to have somebody on the buns. And the person on the buns was responsible for actually finishing off the burger. Because the burger would be cooked and the buns would be there, and they put the burger on the bun. So that was 3 people trying to put, a minimum of 3 people trying to put together burgers and the fish sandwich and the original chicken sandwich during rush hour. At least. There was probably more. And today, they can reduce that number by 1 or 2 people. It only takes one person to cook all the burgers. Not even that. Because the person who's putting the burgers together can also quickly load the hopper that cooks the burgers. So up front, there might be a cost. But in the long run, even in the short run, the business owner is going to save money in labor cost. That's probably the second most costly item in a business, is their labor cost. And now you have the government that just wants to up that business's labor cost. Hey, you're going to pay more. So this is what's happening already, because Seattle, Washington has this $15 per hour minimum wage increase that's coming into effect. And wait till you hear how they're doing it. Now, you want to talk about being discriminatory. Listen to this. A pizza shop is closing in response to Seattle minimum wage hike. And the story goes, it's written by a Barry Donegan. And the story goes, people like me are finding themselves in a tougher situation than ever, said a Seattle pizza shop employee, Devin Jaron. In comments to Fox Q13 Fox News earlier this month, Jaron was the recipient of a raise as Seattle's mandated minimum wage hike began to kick in, forcing large businesses with more than 500 employees and small business franchises to first begin paying employees $11 per hour starting this month, before requiring the wages to be set at $15 per hour by 2017. Now, small businesses without franchise relationships, in other words, true mom and pops, not franchise units, won't be allowed won't be forced to pay the $15 per hour in 2017. They will have until 2021. So if you're a franchisee, you may have, 15 employees in your shop, but the guy down the street who does exactly the same thing you do, but he doesn't have a franchise on his back, has the same 15 employees, you're going to have to pay your people $15 an hour by 2017. So between 2017 and 2021, you are behind. You're at a competitive disadvantage because the guy down the street who does not have a franchise on his back doesn't have to pay $15 an hour. So here's the deal. Now, though Jaron will receive a bigger paycheck until August, his paychecks will stop for good after that, as the small business Z Pizza franchise at which he works is set to close under pressure from the new minimum wage. Now, the franchisee's owner, Ritu Shah Burnham, described the efforts she's already taken to adopt to the phased-in increase of the new $11 per minimum per hour wage. I've let one person go since April 1st. I've cut others' hours since April 1st. Because I've taken those hours on myself because I don't pay myself. However, the fact that her 12-employee business has a franchise relationship with Z Pizza means that under the new minimum wage law, she's required to retool her business such that it can stay open while paying employees $15 an hour within just 2 years, rather than being able to wait until 2021 like other small businesses. A feat which Burnham says she cannot do. So businesses are starting to close. People are starting to lose their jobs. Business owner is saying, you know what? I got to pay this minimum wage now, which means one of you three got to go. Because, look, this whole notion that everybody thinks that if you own a small business, you're automatically rich. That is not there are a lot of small businesses in this country that the ownership, they're lucky if they're in the middle class. They make sure that their employees, if they have them, get paid first. There are a lot of times when owners sometimes don't pay themselves because the money isn't there. And if they want to stay in business and hopefully get past that, they got to forego their own pay. It's their company. They put the money in. They made the investment. They took the risk, and they can't enjoy it because government is coming in from these stupid idiot liberals that say, well, you need to pay a living wage. When $15 an hour in some communities is not a living wage. And let's face it, if you're unemployed, you don't have any wage. So coming in and then doing it unequally. I mean, who but a liberal nut job that does not understand business would ever tell companies, well, one kind of company, you're going to have to suck it up and pay the minimum wage sooner than this other kind of company, even though you're the same size, because you're part of a franchise. As if the franchise gives the owner money. No, the franchise, look, they don't understand franchising. Franchising is just, you're buying into a business model. You're not getting money from the franchise. In fact, you're paying the franchise a lot. You know, in a lot of cases, it's a lot. You want to try to get a fast food franchise, you're going to pay up front. And then you're going to pay in monthly royalties. And let's face it, franchisors, the big ones, they don't want to wait for their cash. You pony up that money, Jack. And if it means that you, the owner, don't get a paycheck that month, then, oh well. You don't. But, so it's not as if, okay, now that he's a franchise, he's going to get more money because he's a franchisor is going to pay him. No, that's not the way it works. You, the franchisee, pay the franchisor. But the way they're trying to do this and say, if you're a franchise, you aggregate all these employees together, and there's more than 500 employees. But that's not the case either, because the franchise does not own the franchisor does not own the franchisee's business. It's a totally separate entity, separate owner. They don't own it. The mom and pop business owns it. So they're being punished because they saw an opportunity that they couldn't do on their own. So they found a franchise that could help them with a system and a method and a name, possibly a name, that would help ensure that give them a better chance of being a success. Instead of Ma and Pa's Pizza, this woman probably thought, I'm going to go with the franchise model, Z's Pizza, because they have a name. I've never heard of them, but, maybe in Seattle, they're pretty big. Z's Pizza. Everybody knows Z's Pizza. And they have a particular business model that's been very successful. So if I go with their business model, I'll be successful. That's what you pay for when you join a franchise or when you buy a franchise. But Seattle is telling them, since you're part of the franchise, even though you're the same size as Ma and Pa Pizza down the street, they're going to get an unfair advantage over you for the next 4 years. Or for 4 years. So you're going to have to pay your people this $15 minimum, $3 an hour more. $3 an hour more. And you're probably saying, over 10 hours, right? That's only $30. Well, how many pizzas do you got to sell in order to make up that $30? If you give this employee a 10 hour for 10 hours, a $30 a week raise, does that mean that you're going to automatically sell more pizza to cover that $30? Or do you have to find that $30 from somewhere in the business? So if you have 3 employees, that's $90. So now you're going to say, you know what? If I let this employee go, I'll be able to cover the $60 for the 2. And that's what businesses are doing. That's what they're preparing to do. And yet we're supposed to believe that is not what it's all about. Folks, that's what it's all about. Don't doubt me.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
$603-835-3224. I do love that one, that bumper, so much. That's one of my favorite bumpers, by the way. And you start listening to the show. When you start listening to the show next week, there's going to be a whole crop in there. I've got a ton of bumpers. I mean, we've got like 20 in the stash that I haven't used yet. So I'm going to go into a regular expanded rotation of all these bumpers. But I might throw that one in more often because that's one of my favorites. But it's good stuff, and I've got full length. I could probably do an entire hour DJ program with nothing but the full length of many of the bumpers that I use here, and because you're only hearing a portion of the bumper, the first 30 seconds or so, or a 30-second period somewhere in there. And a lot of these bumpers, some of the bumpers, their full length is like nearly 5 minutes long. Now, I could get 2 or 3 bumpers out of one song or musical piece sometimes. But these are a lot of them. I know who the composer is firsthand. So none of this stuff I have to worry about any sort of royalty, running afoul of any royalty agreements or anything like that. All this stuff has already been cleared. So good to go on that kind of stuff. Look, I'm trying to be fair to everybody. But I got to be frank when it comes to this royalty stuff. The reason why, and I have been asked, well, why don't you ever play, like real songs or something? Well, first of all, I am playing real songs. But second of all, I know what you mean. You're talking about the mainstream stuff. Well, the reason is, and I don't blame them for it, but it's really expensive in order to pay the royalties that they're demanding in order for you to play even just 30 seconds of a song. I mean, it's outrageous in my book. And so, but again, if other people are willing and can pay that price, more power to them getting that price. I am not denigrating them on that. If I had something out there, a song, and I'd probably want to get as much as I could off of it too. So I can't complain about that. But since I have a choice and I can go another route, I will choose the other route. It's all about having choice in the marketplace, in competition in the marketplace. Now, if they wanted to come down on their royalty fees, and let me tell you, the royalty fees, the way it is scheduled, and a lot of people just do not understand how this works. You actually have to go. There are 2 major royalty companies that handle the more popular pop music, rock, all that kind of stuff. And then there's another royalty a company or publishing company that handles stuff like Christian music, like For Him and all the contemporary Christian artists as well as the traditional Christian. They handle that. But you have to pay a certain, based on your listenership, a certain minimum annual fee. And that's hundreds of dollars for all 3 of them. And if you really want to cover your bases, because sometimes you're not fully aware of which company is covering the particular artist or song that you want to play. So if you're not going to do the Christian stuff, but you'd be surprised some of this contemporary music that we're hearing today, especially in the dance music world, is actually Christian stuff that's covered by the Christian company. So you got to buy all 3 in order to be safe, because if they catch you playing something that you're not licensed to play, you will be fined heavily. And they win. You have, you could try to claim, well, I thought it was covered under here. They're saying it doesn't matter. You should have found out before you played it. Now pay up. So it costs hundreds of dollars for the initial annual fee per royalty company. And that's just for 3. The 3, if you want to, there's other companies out there that cover other stuff. So you got to really still pay attention to what you're playing. So you're out hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars just to start. And then you got to pay a monthly royalty fee based on the songs that you play. And based not only the songs that you play, but what your listenership is and how many people potentially hear it. Now, in this particular case, since we're online, and somebody could download your podcast. Well, they may fast forward and never hear that, or they may not even hear the entire podcast. But you're going to have to pay that royalty on that podcast download. You understand? And that begins to add up. Now, some people say, well, it's only pennies, Rod. That might be. But pennies turn into dollars. Dollars turn into hundreds of dollars. And before you know it, you're in five-figure territory. In six-figure territory. Because if you have a program that takes off, or it starts, and look, all this stuff is tagged so they know. You know, they can get a readout on a monthly basis of what you're doing, and they'll give you a bill. Say, well, here it is. And there's really not much you can do to dispute it, because look, you know, they can, well, look, no, your program was downloaded 150 times last week alone. Oh, really? Yeah. On one network. Now, you start multiplying it when you're in syndication. And it starts adding up fast. So I stay away from that stuff. Because one, I don't want to be tripped up because I end up playing some song that isn't covered by the three majors. Two, I don't want to be I don't want to be out thousands and thousands of dollars before I even get started. And I don't want a monthly bill that's a five-figure bill because, you know, people download the and look, you know, there are people who, when they look, there are people who do certain things to certain. This is becoming a problem, by the way. Because shows that play certain types of music, and this is why some of them, like me, don't do it. Because there are people out there that will get an army together and they'll try to bankrupt you because they understand how this works. They will just go and start downloading everywhere. I mean, they'll download it. They'll download it for, it's like, you know, you can find me on iTunes, on, you know, TuneIn and SoundCloud. And what one person will do is they'll go in and download. They don't even have to listen. They'll just download from every single service you're on. And they'll get a bunch of people to do exactly the same thing. Well, now, because it's been downloaded, you've got to pay. And you've got to pay not for just one song, but for every single song you have in that show. And this is why a lot of online broadcasters that are not, you know, DJs, DJs get special deals, but are not DJs, will not play royalty classified material because they know they can get hammered. And the royalty companies don't care. They just care the number. They don't care. They're not going to go in and look at okay, this IP address, they downloaded it 3 times. Well, we're only going to charge you once. No, they don't care. They only care about how many times. They could determine if the same IP address downloaded multiple times, but they don't care. So that's why I do not use royalty required music on my program. I will not. Because I am not going to get hammered. And I am not going to be, you know, out there playing a particular song that I am for sure is covered by one of the 3 majors. And then find out it's this 4th one over here that I didn't know about. And then I get a bill, a huge bill, and a fine, and a possible lawsuit if I don't pay the fine. I'm not going to deal with that. Just not going to do it. And I know a lot of networks out there are starting to take that same tack. They don't want to deal with it because now you're talking about multiple licenses. So my program might be covered with a certain license, but and again, they're kind of getting paid double, but the station that plays my download or plays my podcast or gyps me live, they may not be covered. So they're going to get fined, and then they're going to have to get covered. So again, I'm not putting my stations that play this program in any type of jeopardy either. That wouldn't be right on my part. And you're finding a lot of stations are just getting away from this because at the moment It's too costly, too expensive, too potentially confusing, and it can be wrought with fraud, like I just explained. So I stay away from it. So and maybe someday that'll change. It depends if the industry changes or not, and I have a feeling that the industry at some point is going to have to change, because the music industry is so fragmented today because of new technology. Now it is highly possible for an average musician or songwriter to make a very good living, and I mean very good, 6 figures or more a year, without being signed to a major record label. It is highly possible. And this is how fragmented, and this is why they're also, because record sales have dropped, and the major stars are not making as much. Some that have been around for a long time aren't making as much as they used to. So they're kind of cracking down and paying more attention to this stuff. And maybe at some point, the record companies, they might go away. They might be dinosaurs. I don't know. But it is what it is. Hey, Lindsey Graham says that as president, he would veto any bill without path to citizenship. This is from the Washington Times. And Lindsey Graham he's a rhino. He's a Republican in name only. We get it. We understand it. But for him to actually say any bill without look, they did that with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, after he got out of office, to his grave, was sorry that he fell into that trap and went along with the amnesty that he went along with. Yeah, because that was one thing, his whole thing was trust but verify. That was one thing that he failed to verify before he trusted with Congress. Because, Congress said, yeah. Hey, Ronnie boy, we're going to fix the border. We're going to close it down. We're not going to have this problem ever again. And Ronald said, good old Ronnie said, well, okay, if we're going to fix the issue and we're never going to have to revisit this issue again, I'll sign it into law. And then he did it. The Democrats, rubbed their hands together and said, he bought it. And he did. And he regretted it. And now we've got Lindsey Graham coming around saying, if I'm president, then I'm going to veto any bill without path. No, Lindsey. You kick them out. You round them up and you kick. Look, I find it amazing that we have so many people who say, Rod, we can't find 11 million people and round him up and kick him out of the country. Really? But we can come up with a plan to, some of you libertarians who believe in this conspiracy theory stuff, that we can round up, half the population of the country then. We can't find and round up 11 million people, but we can round up 150 million people and stick them in detention camps. Yeah. How is that possible? Well, we don't have to pick and choose. You don't have to pick and choose with finding an illegal. You know where they are. You know how to find them. It just takes the will to do so. It's not very hard, actually, to find illegals, because if they come here and they're trying to find work, it's easy to flag them. With today's technology, and if our government can tap into our phone lines and pick up our phone conversations on our cell phone through metadata and through just snapping it out of the air and storing it, they can do the same thing with trying to pick out who's an illegal and who's not, with other types of documentation, like Social Security number. Oh, wait a minute. This person is dead. Well, how are they working again? Or wait a minute. This person is working over here in this state and working over here in this state. How is that possible? It's not difficult to find most of these people. It just takes the will to do so. But likely Republican presidential candidate predicted Thursday that the GOP will lose 2016 presidential election unless they win over Hispanic voters. That is not the truth either. I don't know what... Look, you're not going to win over liberals. You're not going to win over liberals. You have fallen into this trap time and time and time and time again. You know, if we don't do this, then this minority that normally votes liberal is going to continue, is going to vote liberal if we don't do it. But if we do it, they're going to like us. No, they're not. They're not. You got to stand on... They're going to respect you for standing on principle. And quite frankly, this whole notion that the Latino vote is going to go automatically Democrat if we do this, if we go along, or excuse me, if we don't go along with it, then I don't know, where do Cruz and Rubio and all their Latino supporters come from then? They've got a massive following in their communities. The whole point is we do not have to do what Democrats do. In other words, we've got to go on the offensive. Lindsey is still over there trying to play defense. You know when the most points are scored in football? Is when teams go to a prevent defense later in the game. No. All we're trying to do, we'll give up a few yards. We just got to keep them from scoring. And what happens is a team marches down the field because they know that they're going to get a few yards each time. All they need to do is get enough to get to the first down, and then they need enough yardage of the next 3 or 4 plays to get to the first down again. And even if they don't get a touchdown, they get close enough where they can score a field goal. And that's what the prevent defense is really all about, is just keeping them from scoring a touchdown. But they give up too much in between. The teams that limit the amount of scoring in the fourth quarter do not go to a prevent defense. And I know I just mentioned football, and no, I'm not going to talk about Tom Brady. I know some people are asking, well, what do you think of Tom Brady? He's a good-looking, wealthy guy married to a beautiful woman. That's all I think about. Who cares? It's not important. Whether or not Tom Brady cheated during, the playoff games or ever is not important. Let the NFL take care of it. I don't care. I mean, people are more worried about whether Tom Brady cheated or not than over what Lindsey Graham is just saying. And over what any of the other people who are running for office are saying. Tom Brady's more important. I mean, I'm listening to Rush and to Sean Hannity, and I'm thinking, these guys are taking up not only minutes, but hours on this. Are you kidding me? What? How is that going to determine any sort of foreign policy? It's not. How is that going to determine any sort of domestic policy? It's not. But everybody's wrapped up and preoccupied with Tom Brady and Deflategate and whatever that crap was. I don't care. It wasn't. I don't care if Tom Brady, plays with 11.5 pounds of pressure on instead of 11.6 pounds. It isn't going to change the game on him. They still would have won all the games that they won. They still would have been Super Bowl champions. But you're going to tell me that's more important than Lindsey Graham saying, well, if I'm president, I'm not going to sign any bill that doesn't come with a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, we've got more than 4 million people in the world who are waiting to come here legally. And they will get boxed out. They're trying to do things the right way, and they will, because they want to come here, they want to assimilate, they want to make a contribution, but they're going to get boxed out. And you know why they're going to get boxed out? Because most of that 4 million that come here, they're going to be Republican or conservative voters when they finally become citizens. Because they're coming from countries where they don't trust government in the first place. That's the whole point. Lindsey Graham just doesn't seem to want to get that. If he thinks that he is trying to win over some votes, what he needs to do is find a way to get those 4 million that are waiting legally over here. and set them on a quick path to citizenship, because they'll be conservative voters. But no. We're told we're buying the lie from the left. Well, if you don't get these people onto a path to citizenship, eventually they will be citizens, and they're not going to vote for you. They're not going to vote for you anyway. Because they're the kind of people that come here and get all the goodies. And the only people handing out the goodies are the liberals. But see, that 4 million that's waiting, they don't want the goodies. They're coming here for the opportunity to contribute and to make their own way, because they cannot do it in their own country. Plain and simple. They don't want government good. They don't even want it. They don't want the government coming to their doorstep if they can get away with it. They want to be left alone. Especially those people coming from, very oppressive government places like from Asian countries. Or where the economy is so bad, like that's what Indians from India used to want to come here, because they had no opportunity in India. Now that is changing in India, but before they had absolutely zero. They came here for education, and most of them stayed because the opportunity to utilize and make good on the education that they came here for is still here. And now Lindsay's out there wanting to say, hey, you know what? I'd veto any bill that came to my desk without a path to citizenship. Well, I say this is exactly why you're not going to be elected president. You're not going to get the nomination. So, Lindsay, please do not even enter the race. Because that is a bunch of BS. You stupid rhino. Look, I'm going to be hitting these people hard. And if you like Lindsey Graham, I'm not sorry that I'm hitting him. He is a rhino. He's a Republican in name only. He would probably be more comfortable on the Democratic side, although he'd be considered one of those conservative Democrats, but he'd still be more comfortable on the Democratic side. And you know what? I think that's where he should go. Because he sure isn't standing up for the Constitution and the laws of this country when he's saying, I'd veto a bill without any path to citizenship. No, me as president, I'd veto any bill that came across my desk that doesn't have get rid of the illegals because they broke the law, send them packing. That's the kind of thing that I would veto if that didn't come across my desk. Because I'm not going to reward people for breaking our country's laws, because I sure as hell can't get away with it going into Mexico. I sure as hell can't get away with it going into Canada. So why should we let all of these people come over illegally across our southern border, keep our borders porous, and then reward them? Oh, yeah. Folks, these people, I tell you, they I don't know what else to say about this, but you know what? I'm out of time for tonight. Have a great weekend, folks, and we'll be back here Monday, so don't miss out. I'm Rod Eccles. This is the Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.